Hey, what's up guys? This is Mr. Chris with infotainment.com. Today we have a special upgrade for you. This is going to be for the guys that are not a fan of the center console stowable shifter for your Ford F-150 pickup trucks, model years 21 and up. If you want the column shifter that everybody is so familiar with, you're going to want to stick around. This is what you're going to want to watch. All right, so where we're gonna actually start today is at the console shifter. We're gonna get this swapped out for our pocket, and that way we get access to the harness that we can run up to the column so we can get that whole ball started. So to remove the console shifter, we're gonna start above our infotainment screen. What we have to do is remove this trim up top here, and you can get a panel tool or you can just pull with your fingers. Some are tighter than others. Once you got a little opening here, you can just kind of work your way around there. Alright, this is held in with a bunch of retaining clips. Sometimes these fall off. If they do, clip them back in place before you reinstall it. Then right below our screen, we have this long silver or grayish trim here. We're going to have to pull this off also. The easiest way I found to do that is on the passenger side by the AC vent. There's a little gap here that doesn't take much effort at all to pop free. Then you can just kind of work your way down. When you get to this area, it is very thin. So make sure you're not yanking from the heavier side. Because we have a lightning here, this is a push button start. If you have push button start, just unplug your button and you can set that whole column aside. Now we have 4 screws that we need to remove that are going around our climate control bezel. And these are 7mm screws. You have 2 on the very outside. That's for the screen. We don't have to remove that, just the 4 that are holding this bezel on. All right, so now we have to remove these side pieces that are on the side of our center console. In order to do that, I'm going to lift up our center console armrest, and I'll stick my panel tool right in between here. There you go. And start to pop this out. There's clips going to the side, and then you have clips going forward in the front. So you want to pop it off towards the rear and then pull the whole thing to the rear. And you can see what I'm talking about here. You got clips all on the side. Once you pop those free, you're just going to pull straight back. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And now we can remove our climate control bezel. That's just clipped in also, and on the back side you want to disconnect all of your connectors here. All right, now we are free to remove our center console trim, this upper portion here. You just kind of grip that little edge, and this whole thing is just clipped in. You just pop this up. And you got a harness under here you want to disconnect. All right, so now we have everything out of the way from our console shifter. You can easily see the 2 10mm screws that are on the back side of this. Up front on the side, it's kind of down. You have another 10mm, and then you want the shifter in the upwards position because underneath that little rubber pad in here, you have a little pocket. It's got a clip on there. We'll get that out of the way. You have another 10mm hidden underneath that pocket. So basically it's the 4 10mm. This whole thing will pop up. You have your harness, which is where we're going to attach our conversion harness to. This harness, you want to make sure you unplug this after you lift up the shifter if it is in a down position, because this won't work once unplugged. We can go ahead and unplug this now. It's one of those lever styles, so you press the button down in the center and slide that lever out of the way. That'll get that unplugged. Now our whole shifter assembly comes out. Now your pocket only has provisions for 3 of those 4 bolts that we pulled out. So what you can do is just put one back in there tighten that back down, or you can keep it out of the truck. That is your choice. And then the remaining 3 nuts will secure that pocket. All right, now we can move forward with the wiring portion, running our conversion harness up to the column before we put everything back together. All right, so I got our conversion harness here, and basically it's only gonna plug in one way, just like if you were plugging your shifter back in. And you're gonna see this little connector here with a pigtail on it. You're not gonna worry about this. This is something that we are going to add potentially in the future for our Lightning customers so that they can utilize the manual gear shift levers on the gear stock. This is something that we're still working on, still in development. Everybody else can just ignore this. This is the end that we're concerned with. This has to go up to our column. So we're gonna run this on the side of our pocket. Tuck this in as we go. The goal is to get this wire to come through this factory little loop here. And I'm gonna throw a couple zip ties on it to secure it. All right, that looks good. Now we can concentrate on our steering column. All right, so up underneath your knee bolster area, you have this little panel at the bottom that kind of swings down, and that's gonna expose 2 7mm screws. We'll get those pulled out. And then this whole panel up here is just held in with clips. You can pop that free. So we removed all those panels just to gain access to this forward-most 7mm screw that's under here. Even with the steering wheel pulled all the way out, that one is kind of covered with the plastic shroud that's in here. So you have one here and 2 more closer to the steering wheel. Let's get all 3 of those pulled out here. All right, so now we can go ahead and pop these panels free. They're just kind of clipped together from the top, and there's a hook in the rear. So this kind of just sits in there like this. It's like on a hinge. You can pop that free, do that on both sides. Now up top here, you have this vinyl that we need to snap free, and I'll show you just how that pops out of there. Basically, there's clips all up top in the center, and on the side, there's sideways clips. So you pull outwards on the sides and upwards in the middle. But now that we got all that away, we can work on mounting our custom bracket that allows this whole upgrade to be installed. All right, so to make things a little easier for you to see, I'm gonna install our gear shifter onto a column that we pulled from a vehicle, and I'm gonna do this whole thing on the bench just so you can see kind of what's going on. It's kind of tight with the column installed in the vehicle, but basically this is where your steering wheel would be. Here's your stock. This is where your column shifter would be, which we're going to attach. This is what your shifter or your column is going to look like. This is the top. We designed a bracket that's actually going to utilize that mount. I'm not going to stick it on there now because it's a little tight to get off, but this will just clip onto the side. And we have another part of this bracket that's going to install onto our shifter. Basically, you have one side of the bracket. It's going to have an alignment hole and a pass-through hole, and that's going to align with the stud that's sticking out of the column shifter. And that'll press in pretty tight. And up top here, you have these 2 beveled holes. What's included with the kit are a couple of flat top Phillips screws that'll drop right into there. We'll spin this around and you can see what that looks like. We're gonna throw one of the flat washers in here. All these washers are the same, so it doesn't matter which ones you grab. And then we'll grab our nuts. These are nylon locking nuts. Thread these in place here. All right, now that we have our nuts on our little flat screws, what I'm gonna do is tighten it down. These are 11 mil or 7/16 on the nut side, and the other side is a Phillips. We'll get these tightened down. And at the end, that's how you want it to look. All right, now we can grab the other side of our bracket, and if you look up top here, you'll see that these are hex holes here. These are meant for our nylock nuts to drop in there, just like that. And that'll hold it in place as you tighten it down once you have your column shifter in place. So what we're gonna do is, because this is a semicircle that's a little bit larger than 50%, it's gonna take a little bit of effort to kind of get that over the column, but once it goes over, it'll lock into place and it's not going anywhere, just sitting there. You can see that. Now we can take our gear shifter. We'll line up that bottom hole just like that. Let me show you what's going on here. All right, so now you can see that that stud that was protruding out of the column shifter is now through the other bracket that we just snapped on over here. So we're gonna grab our flange nut. This is a 10mm flange nut. It's the only one that kind of looks like a top hat. That'll go in the bottom right here. We'll get that tightened down, and you can see we have these guys up here that are already set in there. We have our socket head Allen screws here, and that'll go right through the whole assembly. And these are 5/32. And we're gonna get that tightened down. What I like to do is just put a little pressure behind these nuts just so they don't pop out of there while I'm tightening it down. And nothing has to be super wrenched on. Everything is held in with nylocking nuts, so there's nylon inserts in there, so none of this stuff's gonna back out on you. And you can see our shifter is already attached, but there's one more attachment point way on the bottom down here, and that's what that fairly large Phillips screw is with the washer on it. That'll go in down here after your column is all put together. So once the plastic column shroud is all back installed, instead of replacing that 7mm screw that we pulled out earlier, we're going to replace it with this Phillips screw. And the reason being is this is a little bit longer, it's a little bit bigger, it's got a little bit more bite in there just to secure this whole thing. But basically, this is what you're going to be dealing with. And once yours looks like this, you can move forward with the shroud installation, which I'll walk into. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all back in our vehicle, and we'll move forward with the install. Okay, we got our column shifter all mounted up. Now we can proceed with the wiring portion. Like I said, you have this extra little pigtail here. I'm actually going to take both of these and I'm going to run it up into this hole. It's on the side of the dash, kind of into the radio housing. Just pull all the slack out of here. And now I'm going to run it across and over to our shifter. So I'm going to go behind here. Let's reach over from the back. There's actually a lot of room back here. So in the future, if there is a module that we come up for this, you're going to be able to kind of just mount that module right here. But since we don't have that available yet, I'm going to keep this zip tied up with this main harness. And I'm actually going to run this around our shifter. On the bottom, there's a main harness down here where you have your factory wiring coming up here. And I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to use this factory harness to zip tie the slack of the wire to. All right, now we'll just get this end into our shifter, and I'll throw some zip ties on here to secure this. All right, we got all our wires secured. Now we can go ahead and just reinstall everything that we uninstalled. All right, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna start with the bottom shroud. And then I'll grab the top shroud. like I showed you earlier, way in the back there's that hinge. You kind of got to snap that forward first into that hinge, and then we can clip the top and the bottom together. All right, then we'll snap our vinyl cover in. I'm going to start on the sides, pushing those inwards, then you can clip the top down. Then you have your boot that goes around the shifter. I'll clip that in. There we go. And now we can reinstall the 2 7mm on the bottom and that one black Phillips screw that was included with your hardware kit in that forwardmost hole all the way at the bottom of your steering column. All right, now we can move forward with the knee bolster, popping this back into place. And then that bottom piece with the 2 7mm clips into place. Pop this back up. All right, we got our console all put back together. We can go ahead and move forward with reinstalling the rest of our dash. All right, now we have everything put back together. We can go ahead and turn on the car and see how our new shifter works. All right, let's turn it on. You're not gonna hear an engine start because we are in a Lightning. Let's throw it in reverse real quick. You can see reverse pops up. You got everything you know and love about the column shifter back in a truck that was never designed to have one. Now, like I said in a teaser video, that these buttons in the Lightning are non-functional because the Lightning doesn't have manual gear shift mode, but we are taking requests on remapping these buttons. We want to see what you guys want these buttons to do. So leave us a comment or reach out to our product request line on our website and drop us a line. Tell us what you think, what you want to see these buttons do. But that's pretty much it. That wraps up this video. If you guys want to see more just like it, be sure to head back to infotainment.com. Thanks for watching.